Assalamualaikum. Hi, my name is Azfar Izzuddin bin Khairul Anwar from class BA 1145F. Today I'm going to talk about the world economy. From this slide we can see there are three countries that has been top pioneer in economy section. These countries included USA, China and Japan. From these slides we can see the information about gross domestic product, inflation rate and interest rate for these countries. We have picked 3 years period for these countries. For USA, the GDP is normal, where in the 3 years time frame, their GDP does not achieve above 3%. For China, their GDP is the highest from all these three countries, which is between 6 and 7%. For Japan, their GDP is the lowest from these two, but in 2017, their GDP is high. For the cumulative inflation rate, China is the highest, while USA is second and Japan is the lowest. Starting from 2017, USA has the highest inflation rate, which is 2%. China has 1.5% and Japan is 0.5%. In 2018, China inflation rate dramatically increased to 2%, while the other two countries is normal, and in 2019, USA and China increased their inflation rate at least 1%. Last is the interest rate. Overall, USA has the highest rate. In 2017, China has interest rate in 0.2%. For 2018, USA has high interest rate, which is 2.5%. And in 2019, USA and China has high interest rate, which is at 2.25% for USA and 2.8% for China. Next, I'm going to talk about the Asian countries. The statistics show the real growth of GDP in Indonesia starting in 2016 to quarter 2020. In general, this GDP has decreased by about 0.14% on 2019 compared to the previous year. In 2016 to 2017 showed stability since the interest is still at an average of 4%, then increased to 6% in 2018. Further decreased by 1% in 2019. Accordingly, the Indonesian economist estimates interest rate remain 4% until the end of 2020. The average inflation rate in 2019 is 2.82%. This shows a relatively high decline when the average inflation rate in 2016, 2017 and 2018 is as much 3.53%. 3.81% and 3.29%. The average inflation rate in the quarter of 2020 is 2.87%. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate in Indonesia showed an increase starting in 2016 by 4.3% until the quarter of 2020. Approximately, the unemployment rate in 2020 is 4.84%. This shows an increase in GDP in 2017 by 1.1% compared to 2016, then decreased by almost 0.9% in 2018 and continued to decline sharply until the quarter of 2020. The country's GDP reached negative 3.47%. Statistics show the actual interest rate in Singapore from 2016 to 2018. The interest rate in 2016, 2017, 2018 are 4.53%, 2.66% and 3.36%. In 2018, the average inflation rate in Singapore picked up to 0.44%, which is a good record after 2 consecutive years it slid into the red line. However, in the 2020 quarter, the inflation rate slipped from 0.57% the previous year to negative 0.17%. Unemployment rate in Singapore in 2018 of 4.02% has risen up to 4.11% in 2019. The statistics above show the real GDP growth rate in Thailand for over 4 years, starting in year 2016 until year 2020. Overall, this GDP has increased until 2018 and decreased dramatically in 2019 and 2020. Starting from 2016, the Thailand's interest rate has maintained their average rating at 1.5% until 2018, and it slightly increased in 2019 and decreased to 1.25% in 2020. The 2018 inflation rate for Thailand was 1.06. It indicates a relatively strong trend when the annual inflation rate is as high as 0.90%, 0.67% in 2016 and 2017. The annual inflation rate plummeted to 0.71% in 2019. In 2020, the average inflation rate is negative 1.06%. In the meantime, the unemployment rate for Thailand in 2016 was 0.9669% and has increased to 0.83%. After that, the unemployment rate in Thailand has decreased for the last 2 years. The table above shows a continuous decreasing in GDP from 2016 until 2020, starting from 6.88% down to 0.2% in 2017. And from that year, it starts to go down to 6.24% in 2018, 5.91% in 2019, and sharply decreased to 0.65% in 2020. The stats show the interest rate for Philippines from 2016 to 2020. It started from 4.0% in 2016, decreased for 1.0% in 2017, and displays stability to maintain it in 2018. In 2019, it increased slightly to 4.75% and dropped back to 4.0% in 2020. From the information above, the inflation rate in Philippines has a not very stable growth because of the up and down in its economy. From 2016, it continued to increase until 2018, and from that year, the growth started to show negative reaction until 2020. For unemployment rate, Philippines has the same pattern as the GDP. It continuously decreasing, but not for much, starting with 2.71% in 2016, 2.55% in 2017, 2.34% in 2018, and straight to 2.15% in 2019, and slightly increased in 2020 to 2.16%. The statistics show the real growth of GDP in Vietnam, starting in 2016 to quarter 2020. In general, this GDP has decreased by about 0.1% on 2019 compared to the previous year. In 2016, showed the interest is 6.50%, then decreased to 6.25% in 2017, and stable until 2018, further decreased by 0.25% in 2019. Accordingly, the Vietnamese economist estimates interest rate remain 4% until the end of 2020. The average inflation rate in 2019 is 2.8%. This shows a relatively high decline where the average inflation rate in 2016, 2017, 2018 is as much as 2.67%, 3.72%, 3.74%. The average inflation rate in the quarter of 2020 is 3.2%. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate in Vietnam showed an increase starting in 2016 until the quarter of 2020. Approximately, the unemployment rate in 2020 is 4.96%. For the Malaysian economy GDP development from July 2017, the GDP is 6.1 and slowly decreasing throughout the years until July 2020. Malaysia GDP dropped dramatically to negative 17.1. We can look at this slide for inflation and interest development. The chart has up and down movement until March 2020. Start from this month, the development has dropped until the end of 2020. That's all from me for this chapter. Thank you.
Hello, hi to all panels who gonna watch our presentation. I am Ilani Tasha binti Othman. We'll continue this presentation with industrial analysis of these two stocks, Duo Pharma Biotech and also Apex Healthcare. In the third quarter of 2020, 3Q20, Malaysia's gross domestic product GDP shrank by 2.7% compared to a sharper contraction of 17.1% in 2Q20. The improved results largely represented the effect of the company's reopening after the movement control order and stronger conditions for external demand. For contrast, in 2Q20, Malaysia's GDP contracted 17.1%, while in 1Q20 it rose up to 0.7%. Allow me to continue to Malaysia manufacturer performance. Malaysian manufacturers have demonstrated their skills and also capabilities in the manufacture of pharmaceutical drugs. Known as a member of the Cooperation Scheme for Pharmaceutical Inspection Convention and Pharmaceutical Inspection PICs, the halal sector should be considered by investors finding a niche in the pharmaceutical industry with important growth potential. Globally, the halal pharmaceutical industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry with expenses of $75 billion in 2017, rising to an estimated of $132 billion by 2021. Continue to company's data. Start with Duo Pharma Biotech Berhad. Attached is Duo Pharma Biotech Berhad data on November 13, 2020. The data already shows how the share price Rp3.97 and also the market capitalization Rp2.80 billion as of today for this company. Duo Pharma Biotech Berhad is categorized as one of the mid-caps since the company market capitalization, which is Rp2.80 billion, is in between 2 billion to 10 billion. This company established in 1979 and incorporated in 2000, making it as one of Malaysia's leading pharmaceutical companies listed in the main market of Bursa Malaysia Berhad. Duo Pharma successfully reward their investors with a consistent increase in shares and value and also dividend payments, even though the company is not doing too well sometimes since the COVID-19 outbreak. Duo Pharma is going to see the bigger future to record higher on COVID-19 vaccines. Let's move on to Apex Healthcare Berhad. The diagram shows the data of Apex Healthcare Berhad as of November 13, 2020. Based on the data, the share price for this stock is Rp3.57, higher than Duo Pharma. Meanwhile, the market capitalization is Rp1.70 billion, lower than Duo Pharma. Unlike Duo Pharma, Apex Healthcare is still classified as small capitalization company since the market capitalization is between 300 million to 2 billion. Even though this company operates in 1962, this company has fewer resources which lead to sensitive economic slowdowns. Small cap share price appear to be more volatile and less liquid than mature and larger firms. Around the same time, small caps also offer greater opportunities for growth than large-scale ones. Apex Healthcare also playing roles in distributing COVID-19 vaccines, which may raise up their market capitalization. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Arif Irfan and I'll be presenting about Chapter 3, Company Analysis.
So first of all, I'll be presenting about the background of Duo Pharma Biotech's Berhad. So the establishment of Duo Pharma Biotech's Berhad is in 1979. Duo Pharma Biotech was founded in year 2000 and is today one of the leading pharmaceutical companies in Malaysia. Duo Pharma is also listed in Bursa Malaysia's Berhad main market. In the pharmaceutical industry, Duo Pharma Biotech has key competencies including production, research, development, and commercialization. Distribution of more than 300 generic drugs such as Onisec and Prelica, as well as consumer healthcare brands including Chems, Flavex, Proviton, and Euphamol, which are well recognized and welcomed by Malaysians, regional, and global consumers. Through technology and commercialization, partnership with reputable and strong international partners, the company has also diversified into biosimilars region. Duo Pharma also is a venture management firm specializing in pharmaceutical production. It produces, manufactures, and markets prescription drugs that are generic and over-the-counter. Manufacturing and sale of prescription products is the company's operating division. As a manufacturer, distributor, importer, and exporter of pharmaceutical drugs and medicines, the main duties of its subsidiary are to carry out businesses. Duo Pharma Biotech is based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and maintains and runs 3 development facilities in Klang, Bangi, and Glenmarie, Selangor. In the Philippines and Singapore, Duo Pharma Biotech also has affiliate businesses. In Jakarta, Indonesia, a subsidiary of Duo Pharma Biotech Berhad has representative office. And now, moving on to the background of Apex Healthcare Berhad. Apex Healthcare Berhad, with operational branches in Malaysia and Singapore and offices in Vietnam and Myanmar, is a major healthcare company headquartered in Malaysia. Established as a retail pharmacy in Malacca in 1962. Today, their core expertise is in the growth, manufacture, sales and marketing, distribution and wholesale of pharmaceuticals and products for consumer healthcare. The company is interested in delivering services for administrators. The company works in 3 segments: production and selling, wholesale and distribution, and also corporate. The manufacturing and marketing group is active in the manufacture and marketing of pharmaceutical products. In the manufacturing and delivery segment, pharmaceutical, diagnostics, and consumer healthcare products are import, marketing, and distribution investment in specialty pharmacy, company assets, and brand marketing contract production of orthopedic products are found in the corporate section. It offers a products dossiers and a range of prescription drugs for licensing. The company has operations in Malaysia, Vietnam, Myanmar, and Singapore. The group's main subsidiaries are Malacca-based Zepasol Patisen Sdn Bhd, a GMP certified manufacturer of generic pharmaceuticals from the European Union and Australian Therapeutic Products Administration, including Apex Pharmacy Marketing Sdn Bhd and Apex Pharma Marketing Private Limited. Pharmaceuticals wholesalers and distributors in Malaysia and Singapore Trade Sdn Bhd, which is Penang-based U.S. Food and Drug Administration accredited orthopedic products contract manufacturer for international firms. Apex Healthcare Berhad is publicly listed under the Bursa Malaysia key market. Moving on to SWOT for Duo Pharma. The strengths are track record of innovation, brands catering to different customer segments within biotechnology and drug segments. The weaknesses are high turnover of employees at the lower level, easily imitation of the company business model. The opportunities are accelerating technological innovation and advances, and also take advantages to grow from pandemic that causes demand. The threats are increased competition from generic drugs, and also the counterfeit medicine market is more levitative than the narcotics business. Lastly, moving on to the SWOT for Apex Healthcare. The strengths are market leader in cough mixture and also high barriers of entry into the pharmaceutical industry. The weakness are stiff pricing competition among off-patent players and difficulty in brand differentiation among off-patent players. The opportunities are leverage on patent expiry of best-selling drugs, own brands product expansion, and also government support on friendly policies. Finally, the threats are evolving foreign regulatory environment against the foreign industry player interests. Technology improvement may cause certain drugs to become obsolete, and also counterfeit drugs may cease interest share.
Thank you, Mr. Arif Irfan. Assalamualaikum. My name is Nazi Shazran Bimarzuki, and I will be explaining about fundamental analysis for both Duo Pharma Biotech and Apex Healthcare. So, what is fundamental analysis? Most researchers use fundamental analysis, which is a means of calculating the underlying value of a security by analyzing financial and economic variables that are related. These fundamental analysts believe that macroeconomic factors such as economic conditions and industrial conditions up to microeconomic factors such as the effectiveness of company management can affect the value of security. So let's move on to the first one, liquidity ratio. The current ratio of Apex Healthcare is better than Duo Pharma Biotech since the ratio of the company was recorded at 2.79 times, which is higher than 1.71 times recorded by Duo Pharma. The same goes to the quick ratio, where a higher ratio was recorded by the company 2.16 times as compared to 1.22 times. Similarly, the Apex Healthcare net working capital was RM 254.85 million, which was also higher than the RM 188.5 million recorded by Duo Pharma. Therefore, Apex Healthcare liquidity was generally better than Duo Pharma under all ratios, suggesting that the firm is more liquid and able to pay for its short-term obligations. Then we have leverage ratio. For leverage between the two companies, we can see that Apex Healthcare leverage is much better than Duo Pharma Biotech's leverage. The firm's debt ratio is better since a lower ratio was recorded at 27.85% compared to 46.61% of Duo Pharma Biotech. Even though both companies recorded ratio less than 50%, yet Apex Healthcare is much lower than Duo Pharma, thus more favorable. The debt to equity ratio is also favored more towards Apex Healthcare since the firm has a lower debt of 38.61% than equities as a source of financing, while Duo Pharma employs 77.345% of debt. In parallel with time interest rate, Apex Healthcare ability to service for interest payment is slightly higher at 5.01 times as compared to 4.3 times for Duo Pharma. As a conclusion, Apex Healthcare has better leverage compared to its competitor. As for activity ratio compared to Duo Pharma Biotech, Apex Healthcare is better under all measures of efficiency. The firm is more efficient in managing inventories and the inventory turnover period is higher, which is 2.15 as compared to 0.71 times, while the firm collects payment at a faster rate of 5 days as compared to 8 days. Apex Healthcare is also able to generate more sales from fixed assets, which are by 1.1 times as compared to 0.38 times for Duo Pharma Biotech. And for the last one, profitability ratio. In terms of profitability for both companies are balanced in terms of calculation. Duo Pharma gross profit margin and net profit margin are all better at 72.62% and 14.75% respectively compared to Apex Healthcare. Nevertheless, for return on equity and return on assets, Apex Healthcare is slightly better than Duo Pharma at 3.26% and 2.35% for Duo Pharma. The firm is able to generate higher profit from its sales, yet generate slightly lower return from asset and equity investment. Finally, for Apex Healthcare, they are unable to generate higher profit from its sales compared to Duo Pharma. Even so, they are still able to generate a slightly high return from assets and equity investment compared to its competitor. We move on to the next one. Statistical analysis for both companies. For Duo Pharma Biotech, based on R-square, Duo Pharma Biotech Berhad did not have strong relationship with the KLCI market return with the percentage of 2.01%. We can see that the p-value is bigger than the default value of 0.05. This indicates that it firmly opposes the null hypothesis that the company's success does rely on KLCI's business performance. As for Apex Healthcare, we can see that the p-value is at 0.0076 for the following regression figures. That numbers is lower than 0.05 default value. This indicates that it firmly opposes the null hypothesis that the company's success does not rely on KLCI's business performance. In conclusion, the efficiency of the enterprise depends on success of the business. So that's all from me. I will pass this presentation to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Putri Nur Hasunda, and right now we will discuss about technical analysis, which the tools and technique that we use to analyze the price movement of the company. Alright, what we see here is the comparative analysis between company versus KLCI. The price movement of a company was aligned with the KLCI. Thus, KLCI can be taken as an indicator. Recently, due to COVID-19, the FPM KLCI saw its biggest drop since 2008's global financial crisis. Although healthcare sector able to score higher due to high demand for pharmaceutical products, it also affects the share price in the beginning of the year. Support and resistance. Support is the price level at which demand is thought to be strong enough to prevent the price from declining further, while resistance is the price level at which selling is thought to be strong enough to prevent the price from rising further. As we look at Duo Pharma Biotech, in July, we can see the price break the resistance line, thus signal the investor to buy. Meanwhile, for Apex Healthcare, the price seems to break below support line in between September and October, thus indicates a sell signal. Next is simple moving average or SMA. A closing price moving above the moving average indicates a buy signal, while a closing price moving below the MA indicates a sell signal. Today, for Duo Pharma, the closing price is closer to MA line, but it is lack of momentum and volume. While for Apex Healthcare, the closing price is traded below the moving average. Moving on, MACD or Moving Average Convergent Divergence is much more easier to understand. If the blue line or MACD line cross below the red line, it indicates sell signal and vice versa. We can see here that for both companies, the blue line crossed over below the red line in September. Thus, you can see the drop in stock price. Next indicators is RSI, Relative Strength Index. For Duo Pharma, since the line has not reached 70, it is okay to hold, but once it crosses above 70, it indicates a sell signal. Different from Apex Healthcare, the line is moving below 30, thus indicates a buy signal as it will move up and crosses over the oversold line. Lastly, for ROC, rate of change, Duo Pharma predicted to fall more as the line is greater than 0, while for Apex Healthcare, ROC value is less than 0, means a buy signal. In conclusion, both company indicates a sell signal for the intermediate time frame, as according to SMA and MACD. But for Apex Healthcare, there are few buy signals from RSI and ROC. That's all from me. Thank you.